My name is John Passfield, and I'm going to read from my novel Pauline Johnson, Know Who I Am. The title of this reading will be Pauline Johnson, Video 15, Chapter 14, Vancouver. So here, once again, is the cover, Pauline Johnson, Know Who I Am, a novel by John Passfield, and a photograph of the historical Pauline Johnson. The summary? Pauline Johnson was born on the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario, Canada. Was she American, British, or Canadian? Was she Mohawk, English, or mixed? She added up her assets and liabilities, decided that the Pauline that the world would say would be Pauline, the performance artist, Pauline on stage. As for the real Pauline, she would keep that to herself. In Chapter 14 of this novel, the main character, Pauline Johnson, retires from her career on the stage and moves to Vancouver. Now, there are 8 image units which tell of the shift in her lifestyle. As one would expect, the present moment move is accompanied by memories of the life that she's been leading up until now. So vivid are these memories that they come to her as present moment thoughts. So they're memories, they're from the past, but they're so vivid in her mind that it's as if she is living them at the moment. So I'm going to look at Chapter 14, which starts on page 107, which I'll just find here. Here we are. And I'm not going to read all of Chapter 14, but I'm just going to read the sections in which she's thinking through this change in lifestyle and this physical move to Vancouver. Visiting Chief Joe's grave. Soon I will join you in the great beyond. These were your legends. Now they are mine. Soon others will claim them as theirs. Legends are stories that we tell of who we are. Generations have scattered these seeds across the land. Now that thought, in the present moment, getting ready to move, makes her think of something else. Sensing that all things are coming to an end, feeling old and feeling tired, my day's energy draining away in a few short hours, unable to get much sleep, feeling uneasy when I go on stage, not the old zip in my performances that I always used to have. Do I want to see a doctor? There's one in every town. Do I really want to know what might be wrong? Then there's a page of images on other topics that comment on this situation, but let's go on to the next section in which she's thinking of the move. A legend occurs to her. We stood on the bridge, the old chief and I. We looked across what I called the Lost Lagoon to what he had always called the Island of Dead Men. None of our people will live on it now, he said. There was a time when it was claimed by every tribe. The sun was setting on the island as he told his tale. That evokes another image in her mind. Reciting Ojisto to an audience, wearing my Indian costume on stage. I am Ojisto, the wife of the Mohawk, wife of the man whose arm is iron, wife of the man whose heart is steel, the man who is hated by the Hurons. Think of yourself as in great danger, sitting here on the edge of your chair. Feel the tension in the moment. We are surrounded by Huron braves with no rescue in sight. And then we leave a whole page of imagery aside. It's in the novel and in the mind of the main character, but we won't read it here. And we go on to this. Pauline? Did you say Pauline? Or was it Emily? Or Miss Johnson? Or E. Pauline? Who do you think I am? And who did you think I was? Call out to me sometime in London, sometime in Toronto, sometime in New York City. Call out to me in Brantford, or in Vancouver, or in Timbuktu. Call out to me in the dark on the Caribou Trail. Perhaps I will, or perhaps I won't, call back to you. This evokes another image in the mind of this main character is deciding where to go now that her stage career has come to an end. It is cancer. It is cancer. I cannot hide it from myself. Well, that certainly explains the aches and the searing pains. I'll tell my partner I'd like to break up, finish the bookings, and then fade away. The only problem is that I have nowhere to go. I'll make a nest when one has never ceased from flight. I fear the increase of the pain. I fear the long, slow slide towards death. Well, at least I've had lots of practice being alone. And then another page of information as imagery. And then we come to warriors hated. Warriors fought with arrows, bows, and spears, pierced ribs and cracked skulls, fighting in groups and man to man. Neither side could gain the victory. Neither side could claim the land. Canoes with bodies bobbing in the tide, dead men's blood lapping at the shore. At last a tribal elder asked to speak. And that's coupled with another imagery on another topic. I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed almost everything in my life. The highlights and the lowlights. I think they've balanced well enough. For every day of rain, there's been a day which has been glorious and grand. There were the gloomies on one side of me and the sunnies on the other hand. I never let either hold me in a cloying embrace. And then another page or more of imagery on other topics, and then we have this. We used to have bonfires at Chiefswood, 30 or 40 people out on the lawn at a time, mothers' friends and fathers' friends, all the friends that we children had too, friends from the town and from the reserve, and there would be sleigh rides in the winter. Go for miles and never stop. In the spring we'd launch the canoes and paddle for miles. Father would fill this great big cauldron, fill it with water and bring it to the boil. Everybody who was there would pitch in and shuck the corn. Visiting dignitaries, neighborhood children, take off their jackets and roll up their sleeves. All the faces glowing in the firelight. Some of them chatting and some of them quiet as can be. Thousands of stars in the sky overhead. Nothing nicer in its season than homegrown corn on the cob. And this evokes another image in her mind. Well, what about Vancouver, the city at the end of the earth? Life on the road is pretty well over for me. Would this mean a new Pauline? Who would I play? Who would I want to be? Who would I be? Perhaps I could take a little apartment in a little house on a quiet street. It would have space for my tea service and my family artifacts. I could invite people to visit, touring performers and writers and friends. We could sit on the porch and talk about various things. All the things I'd never had time for up until now. At any rate, I'm finished on the road. Then we go over a page or so, leaving out other imagery that's impinging on this imagery. And we read this. We offer peace, said the leader of the South. You are more numerous. You are more fierce. You are bold and you are brave. We are few and we are tiring. We are running out of food. We have decided to ask for peace. The northern warriors stood and listened. Victory was in their grasp. Why should the northern warriors ever agree to peace? That evokes another image in her mind. I've had my dark hours of despair. I've had my bright moments of illumination. I have paddled my canoe and I've been carried along above the waves by a transatlantic ocean liner. I sat in empty hotel rooms and I've sat at sing-songs with faces glowing as everyone sang around the fire. It was the same sun and moon, the same stars overhead, the same blood in my veins and in my heart. I've been Pauline, for better or worse, every day. And then we leave another page of imagery out. It's in her mind, but we're not reading it here. And here we are. I can see my sister, Eva, tending a bonfire. This is after I am safely dead. She barely glances at the pages as she tosses them on the flames. There's a cardboard box on the grass, a silver tea service, her grandfather's mug. Oh, what are you burning, Eva? I can't see the words from here. Did you bury me in Vancouver or on the reserve? And then this evokes another image in her mind. Ill, exhausted, no partner, a shiver of fear at having come to the end of the string, looking for one little breadcrumb in the woods, watching the cows go home to the barn at the end of the day. Where shall I park my weary bones? Where shall I lay my weary head? Where have I felt least unwelcome in a world that is not my home? And another page of imagery, then the final set of 2 images in this chapter, chapter 14. We have captured your women and children. We have captured your old, enfeebled men. We plan to kill your women and children. We plan to kill your ancient ones. 200 warriors are poised and ready at the bow. We are making you an offer, what you must do in return for peace. For every child, for every female, for every old man we deliver to you, one of your best and ablest warriors must die in their stead. We will release 200 captives on your word. Now, what do you say to our offer of peace? And then the final image of this chapter of thought, chapter 14. Moving to Vancouver. Yes, moving to Vancouver at last. Moving to Vancouver to stay and stay and stay. All my worldly goods on the train, and very little of that there is, though precious nonetheless to me. Farewell then to the stage, a farewell also to the road. I have loved you, yes, I have loved you. Bare boards in a drafty miner's hall, muddy trails by horse and mule, drawing rooms with brilliant candled chandeliers, playing me, playing you, making my costumes come alive. I have loved you. Yes, I have loved you. I have loved you simply for this. Whether a war-whooping Indian or a haughty Mayfair grande dame, that you allowed me to be while on stage, completely me. Now here's a note that I wrote about this transition from on the road as a reasonably healthy performer to a lady with cancer who's moving to Vancouver, essentially, to die. So why do so many thoughts occur to the main character near the end of her life? Or perhaps I should ask, why do so many thoughts withdraw on so many disparate topics and times in her life occur to the main character during this chapter of thought? Well, she is at a turning point in her life as she is living through 2 crises, either of which might be traumatic for her. Number 1, she is ending her lifelong career as a stage performer in order to settle down in one place. And number 2, she is dealing with a diagnosis of cancer, which she knows is becoming more severe as time goes by. And in this chapter, the complexity of her thoughts is depicted in the welter of imagery that threatens to overwhelm her. It's my contention that most novels, prose novels, present only the surface of our lives. When a thought is reported by the author or narrator, it is thought which has been digested and made grammatical and cast in the past tense. For the reader, such a novel is like reading an essay about the main character's thoughts rather than experiencing, along with the character, the pure or raw thoughts themselves. A prose novel would present this chapter something like this. At the time of her move to Vancouver, Pauline Johnson felt traumatized by 2 crises in her life, and so on. In contrast, I have pitched this novel at many levels in the mind of the main character, and a number of them are evident in the passages which I've just read. My premise is that at a certain level of our minds, our thoughts are as fragmented and as on topic as the broken fragments of thought that we find in the sleepwalking scene of Lady Macbeth. These fragments of thought are what we raise to the level of the coherent thoughts that allow us to function in our daily lives. So, why not a novel which is entirely made up of the fragments of thought that we find in a stream of consciousness novel? Well, the prose novel is one-dimensional, as it ignores the process by which we turn the maelstrom of information of our lives into the imagery of our lives. But, in the same way, the poetic novel would be equally one-dimensional if it were to present only the subconscious level of thought. So, I have made it my task, by means of the poetic novel, to avoid the narrowness of both the prose novel and the narrowness of the stream of consciousness novel by presenting the range of the thinking process, which takes place on many levels of the human consciousness-subconsciousness continuum. I offer this chapter, chapter 14, as an example of that process as expressed in a poetic novel form. Now, it's available on Amazon. The cover, once again, the title is Pauline Johnson, Know Who I Am, a novel by John Passfield. It's available on Amazon. More information there. My publisher is rocksmillspress.com, rocksmillspress.com. More information there. My website's johnpassfield.ca, johnpassfield.ca. 2 books there, 2 free books, free access. A planning notebook, how I worked my way through the writing process, structuring and planning and writing and so on until I got a rough draft. The second free book, free of access, is a journal in which I'm polishing the novel and ask myself, well, what have I accomplished and where do I go from here in my novel writing? So have a look at johnpassfield.ca if you're interested. Lastly, thank you for watching this video.